So let's see. Okay, so this is podcast episode 15, and our topic today is going to be the was it the
We don't have a topic. We're just winging it, guys.
endings to a story that ruined the experience for you. If you have the opposite effect, that's also valid.
Huh. That's interesting. I can't think of a single thing that just there was the one detail that's like, oh, this totally makes, Lost makes sense.
I'm certain. I mean, it's certainly hard
For example.
for some.
That's true. That's
I
true.
don't agree, but sure.
um,
No,
well, we can have that discussion. Let's do it, bro. Fight me. Fight me.
I have no idea. I have never watched Lost, by the way, so you're on your own with that discussion.
That's a discussion for another episode.
Yeah.
Who wants to go first?
Did anyone plan anything?
Fine. I'll go first since I just have I don't have something quite as defined as you. Just have little nitpicks in some things that just completely ruined the experience for me.
Sure.
My first one is definitely with one that you guys are gonna think is such a tiny little nitpick about a science fact in a video game, but in Mass Effect Andromeda. One of the very central things that are going on is that they find this tendrils of dark energy spreading throughout that entire solar system, and they are getting entangled with it. That just totally they took me out of the experience because the whole dark energy thing does not work like that in any way, shape or form. It just doesn't. Dark energy is the kind of thing that is just works over it's practically immaterial. It just works over distances, in between galaxies so vast, you can't even measure it within um bands of distance that it's that we humans can comprehend. They're just numbers in between galaxies, and they're just totally since I took since I'm an astronomer wannabe, I totally take that to heart. I'm like, it's just totally ruined
Was it just
experience for
normal
me.
dark energy though? I thought it was
so
like a
so
synthesized
basically,
version of it.
they say it's a special kind of energy when it really just borders on magic.
Well, yeah, and the thing is in dark energy and the actual astrophysical concept is basically the thing that that we think it's expanding the universe within galaxies. If you look at the universe, you see that all the galaxies are moving away from us. So we think that the space in between it is actually expanding, and we have no idea why it's happening. So dark energy is just a fancy way for us, for scientists and astronomers to say, hey, fuck if we know why this is happening, but there's numbers to it that we can assign to it. And in Mass Effect Andromeda, there's just dark energy, it's just this magic that creates this tendrils that literally grab physical matter, and it's it just doesn't work like that way at all. And I think that one of the reasons why it just kind of bothered me too is that the previous Mass Effect, well, yes, it kind of used some astronomical concepts the zero mass energy that created gravity and stuff in a sort of fantastical way. It was still kind of grounded enough for me to buy into the lore.
Right, it was all plausible. It was but it was theoretical science, but it still could potentially be the case one day.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like Star Trek, where everything is it's possible, even if we can't do it now. It's all grounded to some degree.
Yeah, exactly. And that one was literally a stretch too far for me.
I can understand that.
Yeah, for sure.
Speaking of
But
endings, though, don't you do you like, because you've spoken out a lot before to us about the Mass Effect 3 ending. Obviously, a lot of people have problems with that ending, and don't you have a problem with that ending as well?
I, you know, I made my peace with that ending. But and in fact, like, yeah, I
So that
definitely had a
ending's not one, because I know like a lot of people, and it bothers me. Like a lot of people, like if you don't like the ending, you don't like the ending, but they sort of discredit the whole game based on the ending. Um, did you ever
yeah.
feel like that? Like, was it ever something like that, or was it ever like, was it just like, oh, I don't like the ending, but the rest of the game is, good, or whatever you thought of it?
Yeah, I'm definitely more on that second scenario where, like, yeah,
Yeah.
maybe the ending just didn't go, as far as I wanted it to go, but it just didn't ruin the whole experience, you mean?
Yeah, because a lot
Yeah.
of people, that makes sense, and like that's something I can get behind. Whereas a lot of people are like, "Well, I played all the games, I played the trilogy, transferred all my saves, and like this one ending just ruined the whole thing for me." And I'm like, I mean, I okay, but like that, I guess that's fair to an extent, but I don't know. It just feels like they just ride. A lot of people just say, "Oh, I hate Mass Effect 3 now," and it's just
Yeah,
like, "Well, why?" And it's just like, "Oh, I didn't like the ending." It's like, "Well, what about the other 50 hours of the game? Did you like that?" And they're like, "Well, I mean, yeah, but the ending." And it's just like, I mean, to be fair, more often than not, endings suck than they are good. Like you're gonna find shittier endings more than you're gonna find good endings in anything. Um, and that's not necessarily an excuse, but it's I don't know. It is, as much as I sort of hate, as much as it's sort of an overused adage of the journey is more important than the destination. It is true in that regard, and especially in terms of pop culture and endings. Because I mean
especially in the
something.
Yeah.
I mean something like a good. I mean, there's so many examples, but something like the X Files, which is a beloved series to many, myself included, and I don't even remember the ending to that series. Like I remember it sucked, but I don't remember it. But it doesn't. But it's just like I don't know. It doesn't change the rest of the series for me.
Hmm. Yeah, honestly, I think there was the point. If I'm sorry, I'm gonna go into a tiny little spoiler there for a, almost decade-old game.
It's fine. Yeah.
But
We
when it
spoil
comes,
everything on this show, and then we forget to say spoilers until afterwards. So it's
Bruce
fine.
Willis, Bruce Willis was alive. I mean, was dead all along, just to let you know. But yeah, you know what? I remember exactly the point where I knew that the ending wouldn't bother me, and that was like, during the scene with Morden. Um,
Hmm.
when he goes to destroy the what is it called?
Genophage.
Genophage. Thank you. I mean, it was just such a glorious, amazing moment that just like, that was just moving, and it just like, you
Yeah.
know, it just uses so much of the history of, of you playing, of like, the music swells, or or just condemns you, and with, depending on which, on which, choice you ended up making. It's just such a good moving moment that I remember thinking at that point, it's like, all right now at this point, the ending could just be, a middle, an 8-bit middle finger, saying, "Thank you for playing, asshole. We have your money," and I'll be totally fine with that.
Yeah. Exactly.
Because you're right, like so much of, like, especially, an epic like this, so much of the journey is just you playing through the whole thing. It's just you enjoying, enjoying, like this, like multi, like um this three, game, plus 40 hours of gameplay. Like it's
Yeah.
pretty silly to, you know, to have it ruined by just the very last couple of minutes of the game.
Yeah. And I mean, again, like, it's understand if the ending sours you, the ending sours you. Okay, and everybody has their own opinions, but it's I don't know. It's just always weird to me when you were talking about Lost before. Like if you don't like the ending, that's fine. If it like fucks things up for you, that's fine. But like, don't say like, well, the whole series sucked, even though you
Right.
enjoyed, you know,
They just
everything up until the
totally,
ending.
yeah,
You know,
just
like
kind of blanket statement kind of thing.
yeah.
The ending just kind of just out the window, yeeted it out the window, and
I mean,
you're
another
just like,
another great example is Dexter, right? That the ending to that show is awful. The whole, I mean, but to be fair, the whole final season is terrible. Like the whole final season, like did not do it for me at all. Like it was really uneven. It fucked up characters that they brought back before. Character deaths were just like sort of thrown in there and not done well. There's a million different things, but you know, I still like the first 4 seasons and the 7th season. Like I still cherish those seasons. So yeah, it's just that whole blanket statement thing. It does bother me.
Right. You know, I take your point with that, but here, let me ask you, how do you feel about, rewatching Game of Thrones after the catastrophic ending?
I don't have. I mean, it's the same thing. Honestly, like I really enjoy the first 6 seasons. I think the 7th season is very good, but it's not as good as the first 6 seasons. And then I think the 8th season, I think most of it's bad. I actually think the first 2 episodes are pretty good. I think the premiere is solid, even if it's not great. And I actually really love the second episode, where it's just a lot of people waiting, basically. It's waiting for the long night to start, that whole battle, and it's people, it's where Brienne is knighted by Jaime, and it's all these different. It's basically just a bunch of different conversations, which is what Game of Thrones is. Like it's a bunch of conversations that are really well done, and then every once in a while there's a battle. Like that's what the show is. And so like that was, for me, that second episode was like the last time that the series was Game of Thrones. After that, like, the long night, and then Daenerys destroying King's Landing for no reason and all this bullshit. Like that episode is the last time that series was good. But I mean, like the ending of that series,
Right.
I honestly didn't. Again, the whole final season is very uneven, and I think first 2 episodes are good. Back 4 episodes are fucking terrible. And it's mostly because they just break their own rules that they established, and that started in season 7 as well, with like the quick travel everywhere, where you can just run from, where Gendry can just. It takes the fucking Avengers, basically Jorah and Jon and the Hound, who go beyond the wall to, for some reason, get a fucking corpse to. It's the whole thing's stupid, but like
I really think that might actually be just the worst episode of Game of Thrones.
I would say before the 8th season premiered, I would agree.
I mean, even like, I remember being really floored by that whole, destruction scene at King's Landing. Even if I didn't agree with it, I was like, wow, that was like one of the
it's
most
very well
epic
done.
things I've ever seen. Yeah.
But I mean, that's the thing about this 8th season in general, is that it's more spectacle than substance, right? It's super cool to watch. Like the Long Night is a great battle to watch, and even the first time I watched it, I was like, this episode is inexplicably like dark, like literally, like this. You can't fucking see what's going on. But
no, seriously, someone turn up the brightness.
When you can see what's going on, it's pretty cool. Even if it doesn't make sense with everything about. And Jon is ultimately useless, even though he's supposed to be the prince who was promised, who like kills the White Walkers. And there's so much to go into. But the first time I watched that episode, I was like, man, that was really cool. And then I remember talking to you, Carlos, and Alex about it afterwards, and you guys were like, I didn't really like it. And the more I thought about it, I was like, as soon as I started thinking about it, everything crumbled. And I was like, you know what? I guess it was okay. And then the next day I was like, you know what? It wasn't that great because of this and this and this and this and this. And then, a week later I was like, man, you guys are right. That fucking episode sucked.
Okay, so we ruined your entertainment. Got it.
No, like it was simply the fact that I was caught up in that moment. I was caught up in the battle, and in that moment, it's really cool because of what you were talking about, because of the spectacle. It was really enthralling to watch because you had dragon fights, and you had Jon Snow running through a field of corpses that are reanimating as he's trying to get to the Night King, and you have Arya diving at the Night King, and then she drops the dagger, and they all die. It's very cool in the moment, as were a lot of the episodes of that season, including the one you were talking about with Daenerys destroying King's Landing, where it's like, oh man, this is really cool. Even though that one's a little different, because even in the moment, you're like, wait, why is she killing thousands of people? Like, wait, that doesn't make sense. Like, so yeah, it's
Yeah. it's
we
one of
will
those
have
things
that episode.
where
Yeah.
it's the thinking about it problem.
Yeah.
It's and it's totally fair to do that. Like in any situation of like when you start thinking more and more about it, and then there's that suspending your disbelief. Like how far do you go with that? It's like okay, maybe I just like let that go, but then at the same time it's like but this is pretty important for them to not let go. Why are you letting go? And you said it perfectly, which is breaking their own rules, right? So
Yeah.
I totally agree with like with that thinking, and then like you get caught up in the entertainment is doing his job in the sense you're being entertained, but then if you're like revisiting it, then it just like gets worse and worse the more you think about
Right.
that.
I mean, that's what popcorn movies are for, right? They're
True.
for like literally just not thinking, and it's like just
Mhm.
being for like 2 hours, just being in it, and it being bombastic and loud and whatever, action packed, what have you. But then I mean, that's
think-
not really. And Game of Thrones had that to an extent. You definitely had that before, but it was always substance entwined with that, and that's
Mhm.
why that last season as a whole just didn't work.
Right. There's a lot
thought-
of popular
but-
a
yeah,
lot of
go ahead.
people didn't enjoy it because of those like rules that they were breaking and the expectations. I think also that kind of goes with a little bit of a with shoot Westworld, like a little bit of the things that like I mean I overall enjoyed it. I'm not gonna say it's like better than the first season, but I overall enjoyed it. But I definitely think like when I start thinking about things like why was this necessary? Did we really need to do this?
Yeah.
And then like the fight scenes were like, okay, I really feel like that you are like this is a kind of series that it isn't a popcorn type of thing. It's a movie about like you really got to think about what's going on, and it's really intelligent. But the moment you get these little whiffs of like, oh, this is fan servicey, and this doesn't have a lot of thought put into it, then you start going like, oh, that hurts a little bit, and it's kind of stingy when you're watching it or if you're thinking about it later. Like maybe you liked it when you first saw it, but then when when you start analyzing it, then it just like these things start coming through and you're like, ew,
For sure,
stinky
yeah.
poo poo.
Yeah.
I
Glad
think
that you all actually enjoyed that. Go ahead.
Wait, which one?
Oh, I was just gonna say, I'm glad you guys all enjoyed that that last season of Westworld, sort of, but I honestly didn't. I honestly didn't enjoy it.
That's
It's understandable.
That's
Yeah,
totally understandable. Yeah. I mean, I
I
totally. If
mean,
anybody like outright hates it, I'm like, it's okay, man. I get you. I get why you would hate it if like somebody has like the extreme, opinion on that.
Mhm.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to say. It's probably something in this writing and the production and like something.
I mean, it's mostly the writing for sure.
Yeah, like,
just the story and a lot of the character, even the point. The thing about Westworld is like after the first season, they keep bringing back characters just to bring them back, and then I feel like they come up with a reason to bring them back after they've brought them back. Like I feel like it's just like, okay, we got to have Bernard back this season, right? Okay. Let's come up with a story reason after that, after we've already made the decision to bring him back, though, right?
Yeah.
Like because they're gonna come out with a season 4, and that Dolores is gonna come back. She is. Like they've already confirmed it, but it's just like there's no point for her to come back. Like she sacrificed herself, like that was the whole point. So like. It devalues it by bringing her back, and I feel like that's sort of the reason why the show plateaued for me after the first season. It's just because it feels very, a lot of the plot points and resurrecting of characters just feels very contrived. And yeah, that third season was another one where I sort of got caught up in the moment in some respect in some of the fight scenes that you were talking about. Because I remember watching and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. Like, where, Maeve is using the drones to like circle Dolores and it like blows off her arm. And they're like, it's a cool fight in the moment. But then you think about it and you think about it even just a little bit. And it's like, wait, but why isn't she just using her abilities? Like,
Right.
why isn't she using because they both have they establish it too. They
Yeah.
set it up actually really perfectly to do some cool stuff with, and they just don't execute on it. Because in the beginning of the third season, they have Dolores who's like tapping into technology, and she's like using it to get money, and she's using it to like get support and stuff. And then we've already seen throughout the entire series of Maeve using her ability to like control other hosts and stuff. And it's like, you could, if those two like powerhouses collided with their abilities, man, they could have some really inventive fights there. But it just comes down to just punching and kicking. Like, that's
a freaking katana that is completely useless too.
Yep.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
the katana
The entire
wasn't
audience.
special either. There was nothing
Yeah,
special about the fucking
Right.
katana.
And
It
the
just was
entire
there.
audience was probably
was just-
thinking
yeah.
too, hey, why is she using a sword against the robot? Is that even gonna work? And the moment it doesn't work, it's like, yeah, we all knew it.
Right.
Like even if the sword there was no technological advantage to it, where's the philosophical reason why she's fucking using it?
Or even an emotional attachment to it,
Yeah.
something, you know,
Something,
like
anything. Yeah.
it was
exactly.
literally just for the shot of like Maeve with a sword confronting Dolores with a gun in the middle of a city, you know, like
the pitch was, this looks cool.
yeah.
And it's so lame because, like you said, the most interesting thing about both May and Dolores is that they're not, physical fighters. They don't fight with their brawn. They fight with their abilities. They
intelligent,
fight
yeah.
with their
Right.
minds. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's how they got out of Westworld in the first place. Like, that's how Dolores escaped. It was like she had a plan and she
had used
executed
people,
it. It wasn't she didn't just like punch her way out.
Yeah, exactly. She used people to her advantage, even used herself in that sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, okay, so I have one thing. It's not necessarily ending, but it's actually has to do with kind of like a buildup of like you're watching trailers and you're like, and this is like long time ago. I don't go by this. I think that was actually the lesson for myself was, I'm not gonna let the trailers kind of like get caught up with the trailers, giving me an expectation, and I get crushed when I watch it.
Always a mistake. Yeah.
Yeah, and this was the big lesson here was it was what was it called? Unbreakable. There we go. I saw that movie, and I'm totally expecting an M. Night Shyamalan kind of creepy, mystery type of thing, but it had to do with superheroes. And like in any other situation, if I had known that that was the case, I would have been like, that's cool. But I completely thought it was just like going in with just like, okay, the trailer didn't even hint to any of that shit. And then I'm watching this movie, and then this
is about a total different topic.
Yeah, and it just completely
totally different genre than you thought.
Exactly. So it for me, that ruined it. Like that, like the whole, like I just couldn't get into it because like I'm expecting something completely different, and now I'm spending this entire time watching this movie about a potential superhero, and I'm all like, if this was any other situation, I probably enjoy this right now. But right now, I'm not ready. I'm not ready for this. I wanted to be scared or creeped out or some mystery thing or whatever. I don't know.
That just reminded me of all those parents who probably mistakenly took their kids to watch Sausage Party because they saw it's like, oh, it's an animated movie.
Oh man, that would have been. That's.
Mommy, what's he doing to that taco?
Yeah. So yeah, that was definitely mine. So it wasn't the ending necessarily. I mean, the ending was like, it's okay, whatever. Like,
bad marketing.
Like, yeah, it was more the bad marketing aspect, I suppose. Or I mean,
I
don't even know. How can you say that?
I don't remember those trailers, but like, I mean, it's possible that the PR just wanted to. They were just trying to get it. They were trying to get it out there, and they knew that M. Night Shyamalan was like known for like creepy shit before that point, and so
and
they were just like, okay, just we got to get people in the seats. We got to get people, even if it's something different. Yeah.
So they just made it into a scary kind of movie-ish type of trailer, I'm assuming. But here's the
Yeah.
thing that was pretty funny because like I remember I saw the movie and then like some family members like, oh man, you liked that, didn't you? Because they knew I was like into that kind of stuff, right? I was like, oh man,
Yeah.
superheroes and everything, and I was like, no, no, I hated it. It was like this is horrible. I came in there expecting this, and now I'm getting this, and they're just totally thrown off. But you just gotta remember, I was going in there thinking I was watching a scary movie, like an M Night Shyamalan movie,
Yeah.
But of course now, like I watch it, I've rewatched it, and like I've gotten over it, type of thing. But at the time, for sure, I was pissed. I was so pissed. It was so funny.
Have another
Split's good, that by the way. So yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think you
everybody's
have
seen
another example that you're not thinking about, but when it comes to that kind of marketing, and that was Wreck-It Ralph.
that.
Like
Was
I
it
remember
Wreck-It Ralph? That was, yeah, I think you're right. We
Yeah.
all went to go see Wreck-It Ralph, and we're like expecting what, a gamer kind of funny movie, but
You
it
were
was just
expecting the more, like the Toy Story, but for gamers.
right, and it wasn't.
It really was.
It
No, it
really
really
wasn't.
wasn't at all.
And that's the funny thing, I'm not I'm not going to take away that it didn't do well. I mean, it did well enough to make it a sequel, and like I don't know. It's one of those things where it's like couldn't enjoy it for the fact that it's a kids movie.
Right.
That kind of
You
thing.
couldn't. Yeah,
I
you couldn't
remember
enjoy it for what it was.
no, it's not Apollo. Jose specifically said, "Did we just watch a kids movie?" He literally said that. It was so
That's hella
funny.
funny.
and then Paulo was so salty at the end of the movie. He's just
Was
like,
he really?
Yeah, he was just so salty. He's not like, what did I just watch? All it was candy jokes and like you see Ryu and M Bison or something in the background with Sonic. That's it. Mr. Pac-Man, okay. But we came into the movie expecting, it's going on the nostalgia train or something or whatever. It's making references to things that we would understand, but no, it didn't. It was just like a game backdrop, but everything.
It's a Pixar movie, right?
No, it's
I know.
actually in-house by Disney.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
in-house by Disney. So
Okay.
it definitely.
I was gonna say, like, if it was a pic, because I never saw it, but like I could understand is even more. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I could understand even more if it had been like a proper Pixar movie, because like those movies, they're for everyone, right?
Right.
Like kids can laugh at it and they could have fun, but you watch it as an adult and they have jokes that are made for you as well, right? Like it's good for everybody. It's kind of like a Mario game. It's not so much a kid's game. It's a game that everyone of all ages can enjoy.
Right, and then
It's something for someone of all ages.
Definitely, that was the intention. And if I didn't have that previous expectation, I probably would have enjoyed the jokes more about like the fungin. What was it? The fudge dungeon, something like that. They had like like there's this game world that they go into where everything's a candy pun, but then they like mix the candy pun with like things that are more adult, I guess. So they had something called the fudge dungeon or something. I don't know what it was.
Yeah, I mean there were a lot of jokes in that. Like they had the donut cops named Winchell and Duncan.
Yeah.
So kind of like the donut store Winchell's and Duncan, as in Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what was like. If we had known what we were getting into, I'm pretty sure we would have, enjoyed it more. But
thing is,
it's all candy puns.
The movie took place in Sugar Rush almost exclusively, where the bulk of the plot. Like it did have that video game backdrop and the setting and rules, but the movie was mostly about Sugar Rush. Some versions even name the movie Sugar Rush for their country instead of Wreck-It Ralph.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. That's a really good point. Different expectation there, and that would have been better for us. I mean, honestly, because I did see the second movie, and knowing my expectations already were already the way it was, so I enjoyed that one a little bit better. Because it's literally about the internet, so like that was more relatable than fucking candy puns everywhere.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, I bet you the movie didn't age well because I remember that second one being all about the internet memes all the time.
Oh.
Mm.
Actually, you know what? It didn't really it didn't go straight up in like lean too much into memes,
Oh,
ironically.
okay.
It actually
Huh.
leaned in more into the apps that we use and the programs we use, like Twitter, and then like, things like, the ads are popping up and there's just like the characters are the programs, so it had that. So that would probably still be able to translate better. I mean, still even to now, for the second, the sequel version of that. But anyways, yeah.
Hmm.
So yeah. Anyways, Unbreakable. That was definitely one of those that movies that was like I didn't like that ending. I think another one that is kind of almost the same, where it's like when I first watched it, it was like, oh, this is interesting. But then I think about it some more, and then it's like it kind of just makes it worse. Was Interstellar? Like where
Hmm.
like
Mm.
at first I'm like, oh, that's cool that he's like through like it's their take on being stuck into that interdimensional where you kind of are transcending time and space. But then after a while, I was like watched it a second time, I think, and then I was like, oh yeah, like this whole like thing that they're connected through the magical connection between them was just like I
Well,
can't.
no, it was love.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
were
It was through
exactly.
connected
magical
through
power of
love,
love.
as Anne Hathaway's fucking dumb
Yeah,
monologue said.
yeah,
Um,
Yep.
and that's how we
yeah,
explained it. Yeah, and that
yeah,
was yeah,
I
that was
agree.
definitely
I
ruined
agree.
it.
The whole like Tesseract thing, and him going through the different dimensions and everything. First of all, like the biggest problem with that is that they don't explain it like in the
Right.
movie. So no, anyone who doesn't have any like inkling of any science correlating to that stuff is not going to understand what the fuck they're looking at. Like
Yeah.
that's a fucking problem. Like I remember because I didn't. I remember seeing. I saw it in theaters with you, Sean, and with you, Carlos, and I think Jose and Brenda were there. Or I think it was Jose and Paulo actually. And I remember like I was. I think the credits rolled, and I was like, you guys were like, "Oh man, that was great," and I was like, I didn't really like it. It was okay. And I think Carlos, you had a problem with like the science stuff. And I
Of
was,
course I did.
yeah, and it's
Yeah,
understandable, and
the
it's
spaghettifying
it,
effect.
but my
Yeah.
my my biggest problem with it was just I just didn't like the way the story was rolled out. I liked the stuff on Earth a lot more than I liked the stuff that was in space. And yeah, the ending that ending was definitely it. I again, the movie was uneven as a whole for me, but like yeah, that ending was just because I didn't really know what the fuck I was watching. Like I didn't know about that. Like I didn't know
Mm.
what the fuck a Tesseract was or what the fuck he was in. I was just like,
Yeah.
okay, like I could kind of piece it together just because of the way the story was going. And seeing sort of the breadcrumbs they left before of Murph as a child, and her thinking it was a ghost, but it was actually him. I got all that, but like the whole message there, like I get the message of like, oh, love transcends everything. I always thought that was fucking stupid, like just because it just doesn't, like Anne Hathaway's monologue when she's talking about that, I was just like, the scene is just drawn out, and it doesn't like it's ultimately, that's nice that like love is like doing all this, but like what the fuck am I looking at when he's in the fifth dimensional thing? Like
Yeah.
it was very odd. And again, my biggest problem with it is just that they just didn't explain it. They explained so much of their other stuff, like in the movie, in terms of the way that time works when they're on the planet, as like in relativity to them being on the ship and all that. And they explained all that so that anyone, even the layman, could be like, oh shit, like they just ate, like it's been 20 years for the guy who was on the ship, and it's only been like 20 minutes for them. And it was like, that was sort of the part of the movie that I think everyone was, that's what made it the most tense for everyone watching, was that stuff. Or him, like, or the way that it was pretty much the whole sort of, it goes back to Christopher Nolan's sort of a obsession with time in a lot of his movies, where he's like, where you're watching McConaughey's character look at the videos of his kids, and his daughter is growing up, and she's like, I'm the same age as you were when you left today, Dad. And it's like that sort of stuff is like that resonates emotionally, and the way they explain it, it's definitely a bit of an exposition dump sometimes, but it's still
It's
better
believable.
than not. Yeah, it's believable, and it works with the writing and the emotions that they're trying to convey. But even, I mean, I do exposition it can be tough, but expositional dumps are, you don't want an expositional dump, but it's definitely always better than just not explaining something that needs to be explained, because it's different than like leaving it like as an ambiguous ending, or leaving it like where something is, something can be better sometimes if you leave it in ambiguity, right? Where it's just like, but not something like that, where the entire crux of the movie like is on this ending, and then it falls short because most of the people in the audience don't get it. So yeah, definitely.
Especially since a lot of the movie spends time explaining a lot of different things, right? And
Yeah, that's what I was saying, is that,
like
it explains all these
there's
different concepts.
Yeah, there's like an expectation that they were gonna explain it, but then they go like, "Oh, we're running out of time about love."
Yeah.
It's just like we're gonna explain everything, down to like, a mathematical concept, and then they're like, oh, the magical power of love.
The magical power of love is what connected them. All right.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
That's literally the only explanation you get. I get that there's this like other element of like there's humanity is trying to save themselves by sending messages to themselves, and it's just like, okay, I'm
Sure.
just gonna suspend my disbelief that you're doing that, but then like you go as far as to just like, oh, just because their connection as father and daughter, I'm like, okay, then why would if what makes him so special? Like, like there's got to be a reason, like there's got to be a reason why him. Like, and then it's just like, definitely and I knew about the whole spaghettifying effect when you go into a black hole. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna let this one go once, but then
Yeah, but I mean,
and it
even
continues.
top scientists will tell you it doesn't work like that. You're not going to end up in a fifth dimensional fucking like array of these different fucking places and times. Like nothing can escape a black hole, not even light. Like,
Right.
So it's like, how does it turn into that?
How does he?
And how does he get back out again?
Love, damn it! Didn't you hear?
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
It's the nanomachines thing, where it's just like, oh yeah, love. That's the explanation. It's like, well, but if you look closer, but no, love. That's it. It's like,
I would have liked nanomachines better than love.
Yeah.
The black hole is just nanomachines.
Yeah, they could have just easily, okay, well they did say that the future
The
people,
fifth dimension.
The quote unquote future people built the thing that he was in. But it doesn't explain like how to even get there, like they could have at least said, just, you know what, future science, fine, like they built it, they made a specific hole for him to fit through somehow, but nothing. They still don't.
Well, I mean, again, that's where ambiguity may have worked better, where it's just like, well, yeah, the future people got you there. We don't know how they did it. We don't know we're not technologically advanced enough to know how or why they put you there, why they chose you, but they did. And still, that would have been something of a cop out, but I probably would have preferred that, honestly.
It's honestly odd that the movie tries to just have a happy ending, like it really tries to, sell you the idea that at the very end, everything works out for both humanity and and then for McConaughey, meeting up with his children. Whereas throughout the entire movie, they set up this like doomsday scenario. It's like the kind of thing that like it would have, like you said, it would have been better left off with an unambiguous ending.
Like maybe that you can't tell if humanity actually made it out, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
I think like Inception does that incredibly well. Is like it does leave it in somewhat ambiguous ending of like, oh, you don't know if he made it back or not. Like you don't know, but at the same time, it kind of doesn't matter because he made it out. He did. They did the Inception properly. Everybody got out. They did what they intended to do, and he got back home, or at least he thinks he did, and he's happy now. Like, is he still in a dream or is he in the real world? It kind of doesn't matter, And like I just think that that works better for some of
It was.
Nolan's more high concept movies. You know.
Oh my god, I was thinking of the exact same example that ending with the with that little top spinning is
Yeah.
just so perfect. Like I remember
Yeah.
that watching that in the in the movies back in the before times when we used to gather together in the same room to watch a movie all together. Just like the audience reaction just
Oh
was just
yeah.
exactly what Christopher Nolan wanted. We're all looking at the damn thing. We know
Everybody's
that,
inhaling at the same time, waiting, and then it just ends. And
yeah,
you're like,
and the entire
oh man, what?
yeah,
But it wasn't
almost the entire
disappointing,
audience
right?
just groans like but we all knew that was gonna happen.
Right, and it wasn't a groan of disappointment. It was like, oh man, like
It's
I
one of
want to
those.
know, but at the same time, it's satisfying. Like
Right.
everything led to this perfectly. Like the buildup of all the concepts and all the explanations and everything, like the emotions, everything built up to it perfectly. Like it was the through line of the movie was intact. It wasn't like disjointed and I don't know. It didn't feel incomplete to me. It felt like a well-told story.
Yes, that's what it was. It was a well-told story. Like everything just led up to that point very well. Whereas in Interstellar, I just don't think that happens. I think that the whole concept of love, while sort of in while the tragedy is happening in the background, you just never you just kind of toss it at the very end. It's like the magical power of love. And it's like okay,
Right.
well, bye.
Have you seen what was that the Will Ferrell film where his whole life is being narrated by somebody?
Yeah.
Like his whole
Stranger
life
Than
is,
Fiction.
She's like writing it, and like it's
actually happening, and
the
it's
story
always
is
gonna end in
and
a
she ends
tragedy.
up changing the ending at the end.
Right.
Yeah, it's.
Well, that was
I don't remember what that one was called, but yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah,
Stranger Than Fiction.
I think it is Stranger
Yeah,
Than
that's
Fiction.
it. Yeah.
I like that movie. That movie
Yeah.
had a always had to me that I always think about that ending, what she says,
Well, yeah.
as something to always think about whenever if I truly don't like a ending or I do like it. So it's like this thing is like, would it be better if they it was a sad ending, or would it be better if it was a happy ending? Yeah, it's just
Well,
it's
the
something to
reason
take away from.
I mean,
at least.
the reason it works in that movie is that she acknowledges that it's a bad ending. Like she
yeah,
acknowledges,
yeah.
like this is like because the guy comes in, I think the publisher or whoever, and he's like, the ending kind of spiraled out, and she's like, yeah, but like but she acknowledges that it's bad, but she did it because she's in control. She's literally in control of someone else's life. So she's like, it's okay if it's a bad ending because this guy in real life gets to survive and be happy. Like, so yeah, it's.
They got the writer wasn't George R. R. Martin.
I mean, I like the way that she explained it. The way she explained it is like, doesn't the character that you love deserve a happy ending? And that was the line that sticks with me all the time. Was like, was the character like, are we servicing the character or the story? Right. So it's like the ending. If it's a sad ending, it's serving the story, but is it serving the character? And like, it's an interesting question, right?
Well,
and I don't think there's a right answer. Yeah, I think it's situational. Yeah, exactly. I think it's always situational for 100%. But I like that line just because it's a good kind of like question to ask whenever you watch something. I think it's like it's worth asking that question. Is the character like, does the story build up the character to have a tragic ending because and the tragic ending is serviceable in that way because the character him or herself is a terrible person maybe, or is they such a good person and you just keep rooting for them and you just know it's going to be a tragic ending just on the fact that the story is telling you it is. So I don't know. It definitely depends on the movie. I think there is no right answer to it. Does anybody else have a thing that stuck out?
Yeah, I mean, I have a few. I don't know. I guess since we're talking about Nolan movies, the ending that I love of his, I think one of it, maybe my favorite ending of any of his movies, is the Prestige. I love
Oh, that was a good
I
one,
love
yeah.
that ending so
It's
much,
enjoyable.
where it's just the last shot is like the lab of like all the clones, and you see that like the whole time like he was literally like there was no magic. It was him like just making clones and killing them every time.
Yeah.
For the trick. And that like that's one of
Spoiler
those
alert.
endings where every time I watch it,
Spoiler
like I'm like, man, I that ending makes me want to watch the movie again, like
Yeah,
immediately.
I've watched that so many times. I showed it to Brenda for the first time.
Oh,
Right?
nice.
Right, Brenda? I show you Prestige. Ooh, Gatorade.
There's 2 more upstairs.
Okay.
And haven't seen that movie in when did it come out? Back in early 2000s?
2006.
2006? Okay.
I kind of had an idea of the twist because of like what you call it, Solar Opposites joked about it.
Yeah, okay, dude, if you haven't watched it, it's okay because if you watch it, even if you already know what's gonna happen, it's
I
so
mean,
well done.
they put the breadcrumbs there, so
Yeah.
you can figure it out.
Oh
Yeah,
no. I think it's just a very interesting twist about like missions. So it's all good.
Yes, yeah, no, it's really cool. It's really cool. They really build up a nice little like the metaphor or the meaning when the what is a prestige, you know, and the different acts. It's just so reflective of the story itself too.
Yeah.
I
I
can't
I have other ones, but I was, you know, one of them is, you know, we'll definitely save for another episode. But I guess another Nolan movie where the ending, I think I didn't mind it the first time, is kind of what we were talking about before, but because I was just sort of wrapped up in it, and I do like the movie in its like as a whole. But the more I watched it again and again, the ending doesn't work. Is The Dark Knight Rises. I know this is obviously a very divisive movie. I do think it's the weakest of that trilogy for sure. It definitely has problems, but I like it overall. But the ending, there's a few problems with it. I mean, like, first of all, okay, so Bruce Wayne, he 6 months before all that happens, he puts in a fail-safe thing into the Batwing so that he can eject out of it and it can blow up or whatever. Because he's carrying the nuke out of the city in the Batwing, and then it blows up, and somehow he gets out of the nuclear blast. Like, so he ejects out of it.
One hell of a ejection button that
Yeah,
can throw
exactly.
you
Somehow,
miles and miles
yeah,
away.
exactly. Somehow he gets out of the nuclear blast, avoids the EMP, avoids the fallout, and just, okay, fine. I'll suspend my disbelief for that one. But the thing, and it's not even, so this isn't a suspension of disbelief. This is just sort of,
but go for it.
the thing is the very ending. It's not quite the last shot, but it's like the second to last shot, where earlier in the movie, Alfred was talking about how he goes to like Italy or something, like once a year or something. He has a vacation and he has like a little drink and he just sort of looks out, and he was hoping that, you know, he's talking to Bruce at this point, and he was hoping that eventually Bruce Wayne would have left being Batman. He would have left that behind, and he would have, one day Alfred would have seen him and a girl sitting there, maybe with a couple kids, and he would have just been happy. And that happens at the end. Bruce Wayne and Selena Kyle are there, and he sees them. But of course, this is after Alfred. Like, Bruce Wayne doesn't tell Alfred that he's gonna fake his own death. So like Alfred, you know, you see him in one of the last scenes.
Can't trust
like,
Alfred, of course.
Yeah, he's like crying at his grave, and he's like, "I'm failed you. I'm so sorry." And he's like, he's at the graves of like his Bruce Wayne's parents as well, and like all three of their graves are side by side, and you're like, "Oh man, that's so sad." Like, and then Alfred sees Bruce Wayne and Selena Kyle, and he just kind of nods, and they nod at each other, and he smiles and he walks off, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, why the fuck isn't he angry? Like, he just thought like his surrogate son was dead. Like,
yeah.
like for God knows how long. Like, he went through all this ceremony and all this stuff.
Now,
it's just, like,
I'm glad that you bring this up. Now, I don't think we've ever discussed this. This is one thing I wanted to ask. What if you can edit and cut out the scene where you see Bruce Wayne? Would it make that ending better? Where you only suggest that maybe he saw him, or
Oh,
maybe
so you
even
only see it from like Alfred's perspective?
maybe, or even
Mm.
even go as far as to like maybe there's some sort of trinket or something that he's wearing that you can get the suggestion that that's him, or even like just you don't even see Bruce Wayne's face, you just see like maybe his like a silhouette of him or something that makes you
Would
think
have
that
been better. I don't think that would have worked. I don't think I
Oh,
would
okay.
like that. I would say, like, I think that it would have probably been better if he'd had just been dead.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
honestly,
just
because
legit
like,
dead. Okay.
yeah, because I mean, I don't know. Any way you look at that, like, it's such a backhand to Alfred. Like, it's just
Yeah,
such a
as a
fucking,
yeah, definitely as like two people as human
such a punch
beings.
in the
Yeah.
face. Like, it's just like, because like this through the entire trilogy, you know, Alfred is like the one constant in Bruce's life,
Right.
right? Like his parents die, and then Rachel dies in the second one, and you know, you see all these people dying around him, and all this stuff. But you know, it just seems like such a slap in the face, especially as like one of the last shots of the entire trilogy. Um,
Mhm.
but you know, I don't, you know, I again, it's certainly not the worst ending, but it's and I didn't realize it really in the I was kind of fine with it, and then I don't know, it just it there was something wrong. I was like, something, I don't know what it is, but something doesn't work for me, and I went back to it and I realized that. So, you know, that's definitely one of them. And
Theory
then
that maybe he wasn't there, that maybe he was just, he was imagining that he was there. That, in his mind, he had finally
mm,
stopped being Batman. Okay, now that I'm thinking about it, that's a stupid theory.
That's really out
That
of nowhere, honestly.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember, reading it somewhere that was
Okay,
just
it would be nice if if they hinted that the fucking like maybe the scarecrow hallucinogens has a residual effect on people's psyche, right? And then you would have, hallucinations, like reoccurring hallucinations maybe later in your life. Okay, then I
no,
could
no, it's not even that.
agree.
It's more like, he's just, it's a way for him to cope.
Right, yeah,
Of the idea of
but
him
that's what I'm
losing.
saying. I would believe that theory if had been prefaced before that maybe he got hit by Scarecrow's hallucinogen, right? Hallucinogen to
Mhm.
effect that it stays, it could still come back. You know what I mean? Because that
Okay.
drugs do that. Like there's some drugs that
yeah.
like you get I think it's called like a flashback or something.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
certain drugs are stored, like LSD and ecstasy, are like stored in your spine. After,
right.
can you still hear me?
Yes.
Can hear
Yeah.
you.
Okay, yeah. Certain drugs like LSD and ecstasy are like stored in they store a small trace amount store in your spine, so they store there for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So there have been instances where like doctors have like they've experimented in college with drugs, and then like decades later while they're doing surgery, they bend over to do the surgery to do some sort of incision or something, and their back because their spine like it contorts to just in the right way so that those drugs activate, release into their brain, and then they get like that same effect like literally decades later. So, you know, there are
Dang.
certainly that is
That's
not
crazy. I never
unfounded.
knew that effect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. Like if they had prefaced some sort of rule or aspect that these villains have permanent damage to Gotham, right? One of which is being Scarecrow, as small of a villain he was. It's
I mean,
still
that would have made
huge.
sense
It
too,
would have made
because
sense. Yeah, exactly.
the way
That theory
Batman
would have
Begins
been awesome,
ends.
actually.
I mean, the way that Batman Begins ends is like the Narrows are still engulfed in like the fucking like the effects of the gas, like
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
a lot of the killers and stuff are just like out there, and they kind of just don't go anywhere with that in Dark Knight. They just kind of like forget about that, and they keep the plot point of like, okay, like that was sort of the whole point of that was sort of so that all these potential villains could get out of holding in Batman Begins, and then that's who Batman would be wrangling up for the rest of his career, and some of them would become supervillains, but they forgot about I guess the hallucinogen part of it. So that would have been cool if the build up had been there for sure.
Another thing about that stupid ending is the fact that, okay, nobody recognizes the Playboy billionaire that's been,
That's another
all over the
thing.
news.
That is another thing that, again, in Batman Begins, they reference because that's how Ra's al Ghul finds Bruce Wayne in the first place in the fucking Chinese prison. Is he's like, you think the world is small enough to not be able to find Bruce Wayne? Like you go like anywhere, like even Falcone says it. Like he's like, you know, you have to go 1,000 miles in any direction from Gotham to find anyone who doesn't know your name. Like, so it is true. Like no one notices him. Like like yeah, it is true.
I know that there isn't an explanation for this because you can make the case that yeah, both of them died at the same time, but I guess that the point of him, you know, um, being able to restart his life, and uh, and he needed Batman to die, but it would just make sense for Batman to well just quote unquote die and then just Bruce Wayne to just keep living.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You know,
Right.
like it's just a little suspicious. Like, hey,
Right,
that
right.
billionaire
the
who makes
coincidence,
military
yeah.
applications
that's
and Batman
true.
died at the same time. Well, I guess we'll
Yeah.
never know.
It would have been better if it like
Yeah, it
they
does
did
feel
the,
like at least Commissioner Gordon should have figured that one out,
yeah,
right? Like
it should have been
Not a
like
very
that
good commissioner.
Nightfall effect. I think it was called when Batman has his identity revealed, basically, where then it becomes that's like crisis mode, where now he essentially has to let go of being Batman, and then the rest of his Bat family has to take over. I mean, there was like definitely a lot of different stories with that, but I think they always reference it to something called Nightfall, or Code Nightfall, or something like that. So it would have been, yeah, I would agree. It would have been better if they did something where like not only Batman is being, essentially outed, but like both of them, so that way it made sense for him to kind of let go of both lives. But still, yeah, again, like how can you? That's kind of hard to do, just like as a story, I guess, to have him try and get a new life. Yeah, probably would have been. I think most people agree. I think when I first saw it, a lot of people there like were just like I don't know about this whole happy ending for Batman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily mind the happy ending. It just wasn't done well. I don't
Yeah,
think.
it was like wasn't believable. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely.
I mean, it was the general problem with that movie that it just had too many themes and too many things going on at the same time, and just nothing had a good, satisfying resolution.
Actually, you know what? I think the whole ending. Now that we're talking about it, like I was watching it again a month or two ago, and then I was thinking about how does this make sense taking opening up the prison? How is this a revolution now? I'm like, in terms of Bane's perspective of kind of like battling the classism in the city. And how is it that just out loud he's like, oh look, I found Gordon's diary. Oh, he's guilty of keeping a secret, and he just says that out loud, and everybody believes him. But I was like, okay, whatever. I don't know anymore. I don't care. I definitely felt like that was a little odd. How can you believe him right away?
Well, I mean, one of the central topics of the movie, it's a reference to A Tale of Two Cities, the story that happens during the French Revolution. And if you know anything about the French Revolution, that's when France revolts against the monarchy, and all the monarchy and the nobles start getting decapitated left and right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And he's trying to bring up the class struggle, but I think that Nolan did the same thing I did with Tales of Two Cities, and that was never finish the damn book. Because that theme never really gets resolved at all.
Yeah.
But we also don't really see enough of the people of the city.
Exactly.
Like we're
because
seeing it from Batman's perspective.
Happened that in French Revolution.
We don't see exactly what's happening to the actual populace of the city. We're getting everything from Batman's perspective or Bane's perspective, and they're separated from all that. So yeah.
And that's that's a thing that was kind of lost with Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character. That would have been better to have him. You actually see through his eyes of.
That would make sense. Yeah. He's a cop too. He's patrolling the streets. Like he would have seen all that.
Yeah, he would have
had relationships with all the people that he was on. He was doing the rounds with. So. Yeah.
Yeah, he needed to be like he needed to be there for, us seeing what it's like to be like you're trying to be a good person in a bad society or like a bad situation, and you're being stuck in pretty much choices you can't possibly have a right one, right? It's like you're screwing somebody else over, and that's what it is to be in that, like, in because in the French Revolution, a lot of people were starving, and there was just like it's
Oh
just
yeah.
like it was just all bad. Like it was just, all bad for them, and like what else could they do? They weren't being
Yeah.
served by their government in any way. They were just seeing people just just wasting the wealth that they had in the food, and yet they're starving and working and dying.
You were
So
like,
there's like
wait, how is it different from nowadays?
I mean,
Yeah.
like, well, that's the thing. It's like we could have had that more, but
Right.
of a visual or like an experience, because
Mhm.
right now you only got like you just got fed lines, like
Yeah.
like I was an orphan too, and like
Well, I
oh
mean,
this
it's like
orphan is being
it's
used.
like it's like if Game of Thrones only showed it from the royal family's perspectives, right?
Mm,
Like, because Westeros is a terrible place, but just saying it's terrible wouldn't get that.
yeah,
Like, but the fact that you get all these characters who are from so many different rungs of life, like from the lowest of the low to like city guards and all these different things, like you get your feeling of just how bad and corrupt this place is, like from top to bottom. Um, and that's obviously Gotham is very similar. So like it would have made sense to get that,
yeah, from
but we
like
didn't.
that perspective, yeah, it's too
God,
bad.
that's the brilliance of the first book for Game of Thrones. The fact that right after right after Ned Stark is decapitated, by that stupid little kid, like there's huge political upheaval in that city.
Right.
The entire populace just, you know, at some point I don't think they go over this in the TV show, but there is a one of the novels, like the crowd just like literally grabs him, rips him apart.
Oh yeah, that happens to a bunch of the nobles, and like the noble's daughter is like
Hmm.
raped many times and then like killed, and like there's so many, like that. It's definitely like you get to see the ripple effect from of that one event
Yeah.
throughout like the entire city. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's that same thing where it's just like the masses are sort of finally either realizing it or finally willing to take action, because this one event that played out um, is enough for them, is the limit breaking thing, so
Yeah.
that they're like, okay, fuck this, fuck the nobles, like we're gonna just we're gonna go. So yeah, yeah, that definitely would have been really really cool to see in Dark Knight Rises. It would have made that movie, I think, a lot better for sure. Because yeah, you would. I feel like almost in really kind of all the movies, you don't necessarily, even though I love that trilogy, you don't really see the 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 common man of Gotham too
Oh,
often in those movies.
mm,
You don't really get it like I feel like in something like 89 Batman, or even to an extent like I mean to even more of an extent of in Batman Returns, Gotham is its own character. Like Gotham as a city is its own character, and it feels like this really weird, wacky, like twisted, violent city that you sort of get to know, and it
right.
makes you understand Batman's place in it. But I feel like the Nolan movies, as
Don't do
awesome
that,
as they are, they don't really
right?
encapsulate that.
Actually,
Um,
somebody mentioned like the birds of is it birds of prey? Birds of prey, right?
the
Birds
Harley
of Prey.
Quinn one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
the Harley Quinn one. Like some people
Oh
were
Yeah.
saying
yeah.
that was more of a Gotham movie than it's not.
Yeah, I can understand.
He's not saying it's good necessarily, but
Sure,
the
sure. You
perspective.
get a sense of the city more.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
get more of a sense of the city, and
yeah.
and
I,
not
I
in its
agree.
kind of Schumacher kind of like wacky statues.
Right.
It
Yeah. I
getting
genuinely
the
enjoy that movie.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's okay. But yeah,
It's not
that's
great,
definitely.
yeah. But
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're not
that's
saying I'm not. Yeah, none of us were saying it was great, but we definitely gave its credit to the fact that it was the only movie so far that has kind of given Gotham an identity that wasn't just moving the plot along.
above the average for Disney movies, which is not saying a lot. That's their fault.
Well, what about Joker though? Do you think that gave Gotham like, or what about the ending? Or what about like what
I don't really. That
like
movie's kind of
like
not great to me.
yeah, like a lot of
Interesting.
people, there's like a lot of people that give a lot of praise, and then but I do hear people that are like, like it didn't do anything for me, or like there was like particular things that they didn't like it for.
Sure. Yeah, I don't know. I just remember there being. I just remember there being so much like hype for that movie, and so many people were like, outlets were giving it 10s out of tens and stuff, and like it was like, oh man, it's so amazing and it's great, and okay, I definitely didn't get that though. I think there are parts of that movie that are pretty good. I think the Joker says a couple things that are interesting, but I don't know. The way they sort of tried to weave in like mental illness and like the class divide and all these things into this one character that made him the thing that like sort of tips the scales and like changes the city. It didn't work for me. Like it just I don't think that it was very well done. And I don't think that it was very strong at all.
Hmm.
And I
Have you
think
ever
some of
have you ever
yeah,
seen the
well,
movie? What's that called? Taxi Driver.
Taxi Driver is Joker is trying to be Taxi Driver. Like
Yes.
that's
Yeah, that's
that
pretty
movie,
much yeah.
except Taxi Driver is much better. Like
Oh yeah.
it's yeah, it's almost I don't know. That I don't have much to say about that movie, but it's definitely like I don't really get why so many people love that movie. But I can I can understand it to an extent, but like why that movie is so heavily praised, I don't understand it honestly. It's fine, and I think Joaquin Phoenix's performance is amazing, but like I think that's the big takeaway. Like not anything about the story or the momentum of the narrative or how anything goes in it. Yeah, and I feel like I don't know. I feel like them weaving in the mental illness angle was just sort of a way to
Be
I don't
topical.
know. I guess I don't
Because
know. Like
that's sort of the talk that's going on when it comes to well, we're going to political territory, into like the idea of like the mass shooter, the fact that um there's a lot of people with mental illnesses, and that they may become those mass murderers.
sure.
um and I feel that yeah, to give you credit, yeah, you know it doesn't feel like it, I don't think the movie explores its topics as much as it pretends that it's doing so. Like
Yeah.
it's a little scatterbrained um when it comes to like those topics of both mental illness and class disparity. Um,
Well, I just feel like the class disparity is the thing that makes more sense for that character. Like, it's just that I don't understand why this one guy is like the guy to incite all of this. Like, it literally could, and I guess this is kind of the point, but it could have been anyone with or without a mental illness who was pushed to those limits by the class divide. Like, it didn't have to be that, and like I just feel like they weave the mental illness plot point in there just sort of to because we know he was going to become Joker, and Joker is unhinged mentally. Like I didn't feel like there was a real big point of it because I don't know. It really did feel like it could have been anyone with or without mental illness who was just society just shit on him his whole life. He was super poor, like he was just like he was sort of the perfect target, and because of that he sort of imbued that and then like made all that hatred and all that vitriol that he had accumulated over his entire life and just you know sprayed it outwards, and that's what caused I guess the riot and uprising in the end of the story. But yeah, I don't know. It just doesn't really work for me.
yeah, I mean, I think that if you watch Taxi Driver previous to this movie, um, Joker is a lot less impressive, especially because
Yeah,
Taxi Driver is this more subtle,
yeah,
but definitely leads you more into seeing how this character goes from, just sort of lonely, awkward guy to, unhinged.
right.
Yeah, and even his like last act of like, you know, um, carnage, the if you can call it that, it's supposed to be well, motivated from his perspective, but it's just completely deranged in
Right.
in the sense that 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 everybody just keeps completely misunderstands the thing, and he completely misunderstands the praise that he's getting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that Joker just had a combination of everything that just it's it, what made it good, what made it feel great is that it was the sum of its parts. Like it had a good cinematography, like it had an amazing performance in the Joaquin Phoenix. It emulated other better movies.
Mm.
Um, so I think that that it was refreshing to see a movie that um, a popular superhero character in a you know um, I mean, it's refreshing now that I'm thinking about it in a much more graded, realistic scenario. Mm.
Mm.
That you can okay, so like, so reinterpreting what you're saying, trying to think, like, so you're saying it's like, so like they were completely honest about, yeah, this is basically Taxi Driver but with Joker. Like that they were like completely honest with that from the beginning, but you're saying that for you it was refreshing in the sense that you can have a a graphic novel character, villain or hero, being portrayed in a realistic fashion, or in a story that maybe it's basically ripped from Taxi Driver,
Yeah,
but with the wrapping of Joker. So it's refreshing in the sense that we're getting Taxi Driver again in a new wrapping for the current times that a lot of people are feeling this kind of, they're being just pummeled to death by society, and like what they think that people should be, you know, helping each other, or like the
exactly. It kind of
you know,
retells a story that we know in a
yeah,
different wrapping, wrapped in in the
in a different
in the
packaging.
pop
Yeah,
exactly in different packaging.
yeah. I
Um,
think they
But
they
like
they they
I guess that's my
definitely,
problem with it, is that it's
yeah,
like, why wouldn't you just watch Taxi Driver then? Because it's a
exactly.
lesser
And
product.
I understand and I understand Apollo's point too. Definitely. Like, I agree. That's why I brought it up too, because like when you think about it more and more, of like, I liked it when I first saw it, right? So I liked it like during the middle of the movie. I was like not liking it, but then the fact that they alienated the story from the DC universe and DC stuff at all, like, okay, it's like, okay, I could just like not think about the fact that he's Joker. Like the whole, like,
Sure.
after like the part of like some of the reveals of like his connection between him and Bruce Wayne, I was like, okay, so I could really alienate this. This could be completely not, like,
Sure.
I just don't think that he's Joker at all. Don't even like, forget that, right? You just focus on the story, then it's just like it's more entertaining in that sense, where you're getting something that's more akin to, like, there's a particular character with a past that he doesn't know, and he has these mental illnesses that contribute to a very specific issue he has. So it's like it's entertaining when I was watching it at first, and then of course after getting to know more about the production, and then like that they were trying to do a character study on a specific type of person, in a la respect of Taxi Driver. So it was like, I understand that they were doing that, and that they totally understood that they were just basically copying Taxi Driver. Like, why do they just basically did a remake, if you think about it. Like, if you took away DC and Joker, it's just kind of a freaking a remake with a different job. He's not a Taxi Driver, but he's pretty much going through
well,
the same beats.
Right,
there's
it's
another
Taxi Driver, but not as good though.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
so
yeah.
it's, I don't
Yeah,
know. Like
I agree
that's
with
the
you.
thing. Like I guess that's sort of the thing, is that it didn't really have an identity to me. Like it's
Yeah,
just like
if you stripped away
it's just
Joker, it wouldn't have the
yeah.
same identity. Yeah, No, I agree
In that way, it
with
kind
that.
of becomes
Yep.
superficial, right? Like it tries to, it tries to be, more self-important than it actually is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the thinking there, where it's like it's yeah, it wasn't original. Basically, it wasn't original. It may have done
There's
original
apparently,
things, but
yeah, there's apparently
overall,
another,
they're just copying. It's
yeah,
maybe more so like it's more of a case study than anything. They just were study. They're like trying to remake something, but in a different way. And honestly, they've been like the director even said that he'd been wanting to do something like this for a while, and it's just that the opportunity to do it within the wrapping of Joker, right? And then no one would probably make this movie if it wasn't attached to Joker, which is so unfortunate because like that would have,
Sure.
like
Yeah,
I
that's
guess that's
definitely yeah.
showbiz, I suppose. They're
Yeah,
like,
unfortunately.
slap
Yeah.
Joker on it. It's gonna be great.
what
Here's
kind
the
of movie
money.
was, what kind of movie exactly was he trying to make? I mean, because this is a very specific character. Like, in reality, like,
Oh,
most
I
most
remember like his interview was just saying like I wanted to do like he just pretty it's not quoted, but like he pretty much says it's like from the grounds of Taxi Driver. Like he wanted to do a very specific character where they wanted to give him like I mean you could say it's almost like the same thing, the line, somebody's worst day kind of thing. And like from Joker of course, but it's
yeah,
in his perspective, like he wanted to do character only, like the story, nothing else, he wanted to kind of extrapolate from. He just wanted to do uh, uh, a story about a character just spiraling down, and that was just the main basic crux of what he wanted to do. He had an outline, but he didn't want to like I mean he does a lot of comedy, right? So he lets the actor kind of develop the story with him. So he knew he wanted to do something like the basis of the story is that there's this character that is just going through the worst possible situation, losing their mind, and you're experiencing this with them, and that's it. It sounded so loose, and he just wanted to do just that, and he didn't know where it was gonna go. So I guess he just landed the opportunity. It is like, oh, they wanted to do a Joker movie, and he's like, huh, does that attach to what I'm thinking? And I was like, okay, fine, I'm gonna do that. And then they tried. It's you can even tell in the way they did the movie in the story is like they really tried to not touch too much on Batman and not touch
yeah.
much in DC at all.
Sure.
Actually, there was a moment where we were all fearing that, like, oh my God, is Bruce Wayne
Oh
and the
yeah,
Joker gonna end up? Are they gonna end up being related? And thankfully,
that's
it's
I
just a red
God
herring.
I would have that was getting me fumed when I was hearing that. I was like, I hate you right now.
I know.
Don't do it. And then and then they didn't, so I was like, okay, fine, all right, thank God. It would
Yeah.
have been horrible.
Apparently, there's another movie that he references called The King of Comedy with Robert De Niro as well,
Yeah.
Hmm.
which I haven't seen. So just putting it out there as a factoid. So are there no like scenes in the movie that you actually that you really enjoyed?
Not really. I saw it like 6 months ago. I don't remember all of it, but I don't remember like I. It wasn't something. It wasn't like as egregious as something like Rise of the Skywalker, where I like there was literally like no
Movie one
redeeming. There
is
was like
yeah.
literally no redeeming scene in that
Hmm.
movie to me at
Yeah.
all. Like not one. But I mean, as a whole, it just I don't.
It just kind of fell apart. It just didn't sell you on that.
It's just unremarkable to me. Like it's just unremarkable. Like it's
Right.
fine. It's not
It's the
awful.
whole
It's
no
just like
identity
I don't know.
problem.
I it was one of those things where it's just like in one ear out the other. I watched the movie. Okay, that was something. I'm gonna
Yeah.
watch something else now. Like it. Yeah, I don't know. It's
Okay.
yeah.
I
That
think
that was pretty much it.
I
Yeah.
think Parasite for me was like more so the better of the like they dealt with the same like
Oh, for sure.
subject matter, but Parasite did it
In a much more interesting way, though.
way more interesting. Yeah, like
Like
it's-
having basically this whole family, like these. It starts with like two siblings who are basically con artists, and then
Yeah.
they bring their parents in on the con, and it's just so much more interesting and
Yeah.
well done in
It's
really every way.
extremely unique. Extremely unique. Very, very cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the characters are very believable too. Like
Yeah, for sure.
these people do understand their situation, and
Yeah.
they
and
aspire to be
and Joker wasn't like a normal person at all. Like he already had this very specific twist that made him the one, I guess you could say.
Sure.
Yeah.
And to be fair, he doesn't really even represent the normal person.
He doesn't.
Who is like most of the people who are going out there mass burning, they're affluent. They have money to have guns. Like they mostly live a normal life. They're just
that's the
just
thing.
assholes.
I think a lot of people don't understand that like mental illness is like you can mask it, right? Like this like people can come off as completely normal people, but they're actually just complete psychopaths. I mean, what was it Jeffrey Dahmer? Wait, no, is it John Dahmer? I think Dahmer, right? Or wait, no, the one is it Dahmer? No, Dahmer is the one. So
what? He ate people.
Yeah. What was the
He
other
brought.
one?
He would.
Somebody ate people?
No. The other
We're
one
talking
was
about
that
Dahmer,
he
like the serial killer.
Yeah, but he wasn't necessarily. It's not. That's not good. Like, it's the one.
I don't know about the serial
where...
killer that eats people.
No.
Jeffrey Dahmer?
No, I don't know about Jeffrey Dahmer. Wow. I'm
Really?
I mean, we can always go over that some other time. I'm talking about there's one where he's like handsome and he's very sociable.
Oh,
Ted Bundy?
Ted Bundy, yes. So he has mental, like he definitely has a mental illness, and you can't see it. Like it's so hard to tell.
He's
a psychopath. He's a psychopath, so he mimics other people's personalities because he doesn't have his own. So anything that works that he sees from other people, he can just instantly mimic that. And he has no shame about or embarrassment about doing it, so he can do it perfectly.
Yeah, so he's like the perfect liar, essentially. The perfect imposter. But yeah, and Joker was none of that at all.
I mean, it doesn't have to be that. That's totally fine. Like, because
but I'm just going along the line of the normal person, right? He wasn't the normal person in the movie, right? Joker wasn't the normal person. Parasite's characters, they were normal, like quote unquote, I guess you could say normal people, right? Like believable.
Yeah.
Right. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
And Ted Bundy is, I guess, the normal person. Other people saw him as.
Sure, yeah.
He can pass off as a regular person.
Yeah. That's what I meant, yeah.
I mean, that's the kind of person that,
Hey, D, are you here? We haven't heard from you for a while. Sorry to... Are you... Hello? D?
Oh, yeah.
How's it going? Are you... Do you... You want...
Do you have any
have
opinions,
anything?
questions, comments, concerns?
Don't be a tuna head.
Did you have any particular ending that you didn't like?
Twice a day.
Did you have an ending of anything that you liked or didn't like?
Maybe like a game or a movie, show?
I mean, it's a question I've been thinking about, but it's really hard to say. Like, probably the closest thing I even have to an answer is Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. And that's because, like,
that's a good one, though. That's a good pick because we haven't talked.
I don't want to give too much of it away, but basically, it's like,
go for it.
Okay, what if Mario gave up jumping?
We've been spoiling everything here.
Yeah, it's like 10 years old.
I know, but like, what if Mario gave up jumping? I sacrificed both of my legs to save Luigi. Like, and then it ends up like that, going like Mario in a wheelchair for the rest of his life. No more jumping on Goombas and stuff. That's basically what the ending of Full Metal Alchemist is like. It's like you take away the gimmick of the main character. I understand why he does it, and I understand they try to make this whole big deal about how alchemy costs things and the sacrifice is sometimes too greater than the prize. So they try to make that point across, going like, "Oh, you're better off without it." And it's like that's the ultimate price to pay to get your normal back, so to speak. And it's like, yeah, it makes sense. And then at the same time, it's like, look, I hope you retire from fighting forever because, no offense, but you kind of did use a lot of that to carry you. So,
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, the
Mm.
original Full Metal Alchemist also ends on a similar note where they basically lose, their ability to, to use alchemy. They sort of,
it's
regain
a
each
different
other's.
degree, though, because it's not even the same level of sacrifice. In this case, it's like you lost it all and gained very little. It's like you didn't even win. You
Right.
lost some things. It's like, oh, we'll be in touch because we're connected through our souls. It's like, no, because you're stuck in the other. You're stuck in Nazi land, and your brother's
No,
at home.
that's the original one. That's the original. Brotherhood is the one where they
Yeah,
end.
yeah. You guys brought up the original. That's why I'm talking about the original
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
But you
Brotherhood
were
is a
saying about the
different thing.
Brotherhood one.
Brotherhood, I was talking about what if you had to give it up and then but still the sacrifice was at least worth something because he gets a happy ending. It's just you don't expect to fight anymore because of that. At least he has like peace of mind at the end. In this case, it's like I gave it up, but now I have another puzzle to overcome, and it just raises more questions than it answers them.
Mm.
Wait, what's the puzzle that they need to figure out at the end of Brotherhood? I
I
forget
mean,
the ending of that.
Brotherhood is just an ending. Brotherhood is the ending of the manga where it's like, okay, everything's
No, yeah,
resolved.
yeah, I
Those things
remember. Like
resolved. I
it's like a
can't,
super happy ending.
yeah, just can't use alchemy anymore. It's technically an ending more than it's a happy ending, but it's still way better off than the original series. I understand we're jumping between original and Brotherhood quite a
Yeah,
bit,
yeah.
but I know the line in the sand. Basically, I like the ending of Brotherhood still better than the original because it doesn't leave questions that remained unanswered, and it's like it wasn't worth answering those questions. It's just I remember it leaving a sour taste in my mouth. And the main
Yeah.
reason why I watched Brotherhood or stayed invested in Brotherhood is someone who knew well aware that the manga was still running. It's just that I wanted to see if there was a different ending, and thank goodness there was because I did not read the manga much. I just kind of touched on it time to time. I remember what part I read, and I remember seeing something like that in the anime, but you know, uh, basically I
Yeah.
was like, oh, there's more story to tell here. Okay, hopefully the story is different then.
I totally take the different take. Like I actually like the original ending because it's much more don't want to say dark in tone, but it's just there's much more sacrifice to the original ending. Like they don't really get what they wanted, but they like in following the theme of the entire show, they had to sacrifice something in order to gain something. They gained the knowledge that that they saved each other's, but they won't they just don't end up with they just don't
Well,
end up with each other.
the concept of
Mm.
sacrifice is just cost, meaning that nothing's really free. It doesn't necessarily mean that sacrifice has to be something of great value, not like great value, but the sacrifice
There's a payment involved.
The
It
whole
doesn't
thing,
mean the
like
payment has to
it doesn't
be
have to
egregious.
be
Yeah.
like on a certain magnitude. Like it's not like if I want to come up with the cure for cancer, I have to give up my bones or something. It's like there has to be sacrifice, but the sacrifice could be something like putting in the hours and not having to do recreational stuff just so I could do my studies, that kind of thing. Not like, oh, I gotta break this wall so I can make a car or something. It's like it doesn't necessarily the sacrifice doesn't have to be destructive or it doesn't have to be like some kind of it doesn't have to be some kind of punishment
Right,
is what
right.
I'm saying.
Yeah. It's a
think
payment, not
that's
it doesn't have to be a positive or negative. Nobody.
yeah.
On top of that, they did sit like. I mean, that's the evolution of their kind of like their world building, right? Where it's like at first you're just explaining something has equal exchange, but then they start questioning. Then who's putting the rule? What's equal? Like is a life for a life equal trade, or it's like the like body parts or the element of it, and that's yeah. I understand both your points, like with the two different stories. That one has one where they have more of a melancholy ending, and then the other one is like this is definitive ending. This is where it ends right here. Like y y there's no question about it. Um, but yeah, I can see that. I can see the different aspects. I feel like the movie for was it the one? Yeah, the movie
Conqueror
version.
Shambhala.
Yeah, that was really what? Wait, was it that one? Or I
Yeah, it
thought
was called Conqueror Shambhala. That was like the ending after the ending in the original,
Yeah.
right.
where
Right.
they
Yeah,
travel to each other's world and stuff, and they actually end up with
yeah,
each other. Yeah,
yeah. I did like the aspect that what was they questioned the whole like the rules, like what is actually equal, and it was interesting that turns out every time that they were using alchemy is actually like
they're
basically
using a
costing and
soul of a person. Yeah,
yeah, like the souls aren't just from like the plane that they're at. They're actually using it from another side, which is an interesting take. I feel like both like of all animes that have like different deviating versions of the manga and the anime, I think to be honest, Full Metal Alchemist both of them had like pretty sad like interesting. Like I don't think there's really you could say that like others can debate other ones. Like it's like this one's debatable. Which one's the better one? I guess like quote unquote, which one's the better one? But I think it's more of by perspective of like what just a person's taste enjoyed it for. And then other ones, when they go and completely go off in different directions, that's when it's like most people are kind of like, nah, the anime's worse and the manga's better because production issues. Obviously, they had to make filler, but yeah, I think that's just how it goes usually. But I definitely see what D and Carlos is talking about, like the both sides of the ending. Is there any other like uh stories that were like that where you could think like I think this was
Sean, your voice is getting like
Yeah, it's
garbled.
oh it's
yeah.
choppy.
Yeah,
Maybe it's the internet. Is it electronic sounding?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's very
Robo
electronic
voice?
sounding.
Maybe it's internet. Because I could be recording just fine on my computer, but you just can't hear me well.
I see.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, there most things would just be like where either the twist changes how I would enjoy the initial series, going like, oh, I gotta change how I think about this and that. But I don't know. Um, I've been trying to think about that kind of stuff.
Uh-oh.
I mean, guess going back to
Huh.
I mean, I know last week I used what Unbreakable as an example, but that was just more for example's sake, just saying like the movie's not so not so much the same ride when you watch it after seeing the ending.
Mm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It's kind of hard to watch those movies again and be like, oh yeah. Well, no, actually, I definitely watch Unbreakable once in a while.
It's not that it stops being enjoyable. It just like the mystery is no longer there, and then the payoff doesn't
Oh.
have the same flavor as when it's the first time.
Yeah.
And there's plenty
Oh.
of movies where it's like that. It's not a fault of the movie itself. It's just that's just by design, really.
Mm.
It's like you can only watch a movie for the first time once, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Not the Men in
That,
Black technology yet.
that's a good point.
I think
Isn't
that
that
that's
isn't
like
that
the only example I have at the top of my head. Everything else is just like, oh, were there any twists that kind of surprised me and said, oh no, it's not so cool this time. Like
has there
they'll
ever been
have
like
something of a big reveal, and then now you can't. Like Ghost Trick. Ghost Trick is also an
huh?
example of that, where it's like once it's not that the ending ruins it; it's just that the ending lets you know who's who, and once you know who's who, you can't really think of the character as that name anymore. Uh, hmm.
You were saying something, Sean?
Oh. Was there
Oh, you
ever
sound better.
Yeah, I think it's just my connection is acting weird. Maybe. But no, I was just gonna ask if there was like, I mean, maybe games can easily transcend that first experience issue.
I don't hear anyone right now.
Uh-oh.
Just give
Hello?
me a sec here.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
What about me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
It
Okay.
probably is just me then. I don't know why.
That's strange.
So you can't hear Sean at all?
No, it's a
Uh,
weird thing.
how about now? Nope, nothing.
Huh.
Hello?
Yeah, and I see the names pulsing, but I don't hear the sound.
Oh, okay, okay.
For
Hello?
dealing with our technical difficulties over here.
Oh, if you said anything, I didn't get that recorded.
No, that's fine. I was just saying thank you, podcast listeners, for dealing with our.
I mean, I just cut
you
it
know.
out. It's okay.
Yeah. You should put you should put it between it. That something with like, oh, excuse me, some technical
Oh,
difficulties.
yeah.
Da, 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 da,
Yeah, the little
da.
music.
Yeah.
That'd be funny.
Uh,
I mean, if nobody else has anything else, we could just end it here.
yeah, we can just end there. I was gonna have something actually at the
Go for
about
it.
Ghost in the Shell, but I just generally wanted to complain about that movie. We could make another podcast about that.
Which one?
Ghost in the Shell,
Oh, Ghost in the
the
Shell.
live action
Okay.
version.
The live action?
The live action one. I just generally wanted to complain about that movie, but we can leave it for another day.
Yeah.
I'll probably do
Yeah,
that
we can
later.
totally talk about it. Yeah, the next time.
Yeah.
I have actually been getting kind of like that the itch to watch the anime, and they actually had came out with the Ghost in the Shell Arise. That one I've been watching, and I really like those. It's a retelling of the story basically. Or
Came out with a newer one too. It's like I think it's a CG one on Netflix. I haven't seen it yet though.
oh yeah, I haven't seen it. I don't really like CG, but I do
I
want to
don't
see
I
it.
don't I don't really like the style of animation
Yeah,
there,
me
but
neither.
I love Ghost in the Shell, so I'll
Exactly.
watch it eventually for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely on my list of things. And then there's this one that, but yeah, if you get a chance, watch all. It's actually on Netflix. Actually, it's not all of them though. I think it's the first 3 or 4 or something like that. It's like mini
Are there more
movies.
than 3? I
Yeah.
thought it just ended at 3.
There's more. Yeah, they made another movie version. I have it, but it's not on Netflix, unfortunately.
Oh, I
So
see. I see.
it all the movies kind of lead up to the big bad guy. So there is a bigger bad guy that's gonna be on it.
Oh,
So
that's cool. I'm gonna check it out because I really did like Arise and all the other 2 movies.
yeah, I definitely enjoyed it.
Mhm.
Yeah, brings me back those good memories from the series.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, we'll just end it here. We'll see y'all next time.
Thank you for listening.
16.
Yeah.